Welcome to Good as Gold, hosted by Nick Grovich, a show dedicated to helping you understand precious metals and rare coins, how to avoid the pitfalls when buying, and how to understand the inner workings of the precious metals market. Now, here's the host of Good as Gold, Nick Grovich.
Hi, Nick Grovich, back on another Thursday. The metals markets have they've held on. I'm a little surprised, to be honest with you, that gold's holding right around $1,230. Silver's over 17. Platinum's in the mid 1200s, and the big, the metal nobody watches is probably doing the best, and that's palladium. I can't remember exactly time-wise, but I remember several months ago. Someone called and asked me what I thought of palladium, and I think at the time it was right around $870, and I don't remember exactly where gold was, but I think gold was probably, I want to say $1,400 or $1,500 at the time. And of course, at the time I told the person who called that I liked palladium. I thought there were a lot of different factors that were going to affect the palladium market, and to another extent the platinum market. So I felt that those markets might move a little more independently of gold. And the reason I'm bringing that up is today palladium was up to about $830, $835. So we're down 5% on palladium, while the rest of the metals really have gone down 20 or 25%, 36% from the high. So palladium, we're going through some transitional times right now in the market, and that's really what I've been talking to with my clients, and I've been trying to write a lot about it recently. Every so often the markets go through a big change, and I touched on this last week, I think. Back in 1980, we had the big run up in the crash. By the way, Nelson Bunker Hunt died this week. You probably all remember him. He's the one who was blamed for trying to corner the silver market back in 1980 and pushing the price of silver up to $50 an ounce. And one of my clients sent me I should have brought it with me, a really great article on Bunker Hunt out of a Dallas paper there. And, he gets a lot of blame for running the market up. But if you read about him, it's go online and maybe pick up some stories, or maybe if you want a copy of the article, I can copy it and send you a copy if you call me at the office. That's 480-553-5282, or maybe we could put it on the website, huh? It's a really interesting article, and the reason I didn't plan on talking about this, but the reason I really enjoyed this article is when you say Bunker Hunt, for those of us that were around back in 1980 and remember the big crash, silver went from $50 to $10 overnight. Bunker Hunt, the Hunt brothers actually get they get badmouth for it. They get blamed for it. And if you look at what really happened, the Hunt brothers, they're just two good old boys, and they didn't trust the dollar, a lot like most people who are buying gold today. They didn't really trust the dollar. They didn't trust the government. The difference is these guys are billionaires, and they just didn't feel like joining the Billionaires Boy Club. And so they weren't really market insiders, okay? So they were fighting the system, but they had the money to fight the system. And they really just came right out and told people what they were doing. At the time they started was 1970. They started buying silver. Well, the reason they bought silver was because gold was illegal to buy back in 1970. It wasn't until later that you could legally buy gold bullion in this country. So the hunt started with silver and really just stuck with it. And by 79 and 80, what they were doing is they were buying contracts on the market and taking delivery. And what a lot of people didn't like about that, now this is perfectly legal. It's really what the markets are set up to do, to set up for future deliveries. And so they told everyone what they were doing. They told people they were buying contracts and they were taking delivery. So they weren't just paper trading. They weren't just buying a contract and then selling it off and taking their profits. They were just actually trying to buy silver, and that's the way they were going about it. It's really interesting because as they start taking delivery, and again, this was common knowledge, they came right out and told people they were doing it, you had all these big companies shorting silver, going against the Hunt brothers. And I don't know if they were just dumb or they didn't get it or what the deal was. I mean, if you have a billionaire telling you, I'm buying contracts and I'm taking delivery, and so you sit there and say, I guess I'm going to go against these guys and short all this silver I don't have and hope they don't really want it. What a great position. So Makata Metals, who was one of the big metals dealers back then, shorted $400 million worth of silver. The problem is they only had $40 million. So all of a sudden they're coming up to the time they have to come with $400 million worth of silver. They go to their bank. They're only worth $40 million. They have no way to raise $400 million. The Hunt brothers go visit Makata Metals. They let them off the hook. They take what they can get. I mean, they basically saved Makata from going bankrupt, saved these guys from being in the gutter. And, 6 months later, Makata joins the guys who basically take the Hunt brothers to the cleaners. So they get in there. Paul Volcker changes the rules. The SEC changes the rules. And it was really funny because one of the quotes in the article, see if I get it right, he said, it's like being in a football game and you're in the third quarter and the other team has the ball and the referee comes out and changes the rules and now only the other team's allowed to run the ball for the last quarter. And he said that's basically what happened to them in the silver market. They changed the rules. You couldn't buy silver. They raised the margin requirements. It was it was pretty sleazy stuff that they did to the Hunt brothers. Anyway, if you can read the article, it goes all the way back to Muammar Gaddafi's involved in this. The government gave Occidental and Gaddafi all the Hunt brothers' oil fields over in Libya. They financed Arm& Hammer, who's a communist who owns Occidental. And so, but those guys were all part of the billionaire boys club, so they taught the Hunt brothers a big lesson. The Hunt brothers were vilified, and it's just a real interesting article. I don't know why I brought that up. It doesn't really have a lot to do with what I wanted to say, but it's worth reading. Bunker's gone now. I think he was 88 years old, and it's just a really interesting story. And I guess, to a degree, it's kind of worth knowing because everyone talks about the manipulation and what happens. And, when it gets right down to it, the government can do whatever they want. They went in, they changed all the rules, and they made the market go from $50 down to $10. You just change the rules, you can do whatever you want. So when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about what's going on in the market. I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in China. And I want to go back to what some of my recommendations were last week.
Once again, here's Nick Grovich.
Okay, I'm back with you now. We'll let Bunker rest in peace for the rest of the show. I was watching financial news this morning, and they were talking about China. And of course, everybody looks at China. And, one month everybody's excited. Oh, they're growing. Then they're slowing down. And China has a big impact on the world economy. And some of the things they were talking about this morning made me kind of scratch my head because, as I keep saying, I think the metals markets are going through a real transition right now. I don't know what's going to happen, but it feels like, this is where I started, it feels like back in the 80s. We had a big market run in 1980, then we had a crash, and gold and silver didn't do anything for 20 years. So in the middle, you had 20 years where you sat there and the same guys were saying, oh, it's going up, and 20 years later they're patting themselves on the back for a good call. In the meantime, there were a lot of things that happened. You had the best rare coin boom we've ever had between 1985 to 1989. I mean, that was 400 or 500% increase in a lot of coins. So it was big enough that if you bought coins, you paid retail, you still were able to make some money. And in the 80s, it was such a widespread move in the market. You didn't have to be a genius to make money. I mean, you just had to buy something decent, just halfway decent, not even anything really all that rare, nothing really spectacular. I mean, Mercury dimes, which is a coin that's common as dirt, basically. An MS-65 full band Mercury dime today, you could buy them for $30 or $40. When you have them to sell, nobody even wants them. Back in 1988 and 89, people were paying $150, $170 for those retail, and I mean, it's a common coin, but if you got in the early 80s or mid 80s, you could have doubled or tripled your money on it. Of course, now it's back to where it started. So what I'm saying is there were other ways to make money if you just watched the market and let it tell you what was happening. So then the coin market dies, and of course the coin dealers say, well, it's got to come back. And I thought the same thing in 1990. I thought, well, gee, you can buy coins for 10 or 20 cents on the dollar. They have to be a good deal. We talked about what happened in that market. It never came back. There's a lot of reasons why it never came back. A lot of it has to do with coin grading. Coins were much rarer the first few years because enough of them were not in holders by PCGS and NGC. As time goes by, more and more coins are in holders, so they become less rare, if that makes sense. So the 90s, there really weren't that many clear trends. Rare coins were pretty dead. Bullion was pretty dead. By the mid-90s, we were starting to see people get back into the bullion market, but really nothing much happened. Then 99, 2000, we had a big transition again, and that was the beginning of this last run we had in the precious metals. So gold went from 250 to as high as 1900. Silver went from 350 to almost $50 an ounce there, and platinum was up to 2300. I don't know. Oh, palladium I think got up to $1100. It went from a couple hundred up to 1100 back in 2001, I think it was. So you had a lot of different things happen, and it feels to me like we're in another one of those transitions, and it probably really started a couple of years ago, but just really in the last 3 months, and again, I could be completely wrong, but it feels like we're going through a big change in the market. I see it in the coin market, especially. I see things in the metals market that make me think we're going through a major change in that market too. And that brings me back to China. So China, they're talking about whether the GDP is going to grow by 5% or 9%. And you have to remember, China is, think of the potential in China compared to the United States. And yet here in the United States, they revise estimates from 2% to 2.25%, and it sends the market into a tailspin, just 0.25% in the United States. And then in China, they're talking about a difference of 4%. 4% in a huge economy, that has a lot more effect on the world markets than the U.S. economy. And, it was really interesting this morning. I think it was the CEO of Goldman Sachs was talking, and he said, the 20th century, the 1900s, that was the century of the United States. And even not every year was wonderful, but basically the United States dominated the 20th century, and it was great for the United States, even though there were some bad years in there. And he said this next century is the century of China. So, yeah, we're going to have some bad years, but he said, wait and see. This is going to be the century that China comes out of the dark ages and basically takes over the world economies. And that makes a lot of sense to me. So I look at the metals and I think, okay, that's probably good for gold. The Chinese buy gold, but they've been buying gold for quite a while. It's probably good for silver because silver is industrial. But I come right back to platinum and palladium. I think it'll have a much more dramatic effect on platinum and palladium because they're much more rare than gold or silver. And you don't have any way of finding more platinum or more palladium. What I mean by that is Everyone talks about shortages of silver, but there's lots of silver above ground. It's in tea sets, it's in jewelry, it's in all the billions and billions of ounces of coins that all the governments, every industrialized nation in the world made silver coins. So there's lots of silver above ground. So you get these reports, they talk about silver shortages. They're talking about what's coming out of the ground. There's lots and lots of silver above ground. That's why silver is $17 an ounce. If there wasn't all this above ground supply, yeah, silver would probably be $50 or $100 an ounce. But as China continues to grow, I think they're going to have a real problem with platinum and palladium. And I think that's one reason why palladium, of the four major metals, that's one reason why palladium is at $830, and it peaked out right around $900. So really, it's not much of a pullback compared to gold and silver. I mean, silver's down 2/3, gold's down 36%. And you have to look at the underlying message, and the message is China's industrializing. By 2016, every new car in China is going to need a catalytic converter. They need platinum and palladium for that. China has been trying to buy some platinum mines down in South Africa, and it's been 3 years. They've gone back and forth, and they get one permit, and then they have to get a water permit, and then they get a water permit, and they've got to get another permit. So what I understand is the system's just so broken in South Africa, the Chinese finally gave up on buying this mine or buying into this mine. But again, that's where their interest is. They know that they're going to have a problem with some of these strategic metals. Now, I don't know if you remember back in the 80s, actually in the late 70s, strategic metals were kind of a hot buzzword. Everybody was talking, and I can't even name some of them, but platinum and palladium are probably the two most commonly known strategic metals. They're the ones that you can actually buy and trade. Rhodium would be another one. That's a metal that up until the last couple of years, you had to actually buy it in a powder form, and it was a nightmare to trade because you'd buy it in powder and you'd lose $400 an ounce the minute you took delivery of it, because then it had to be assayed to see what the heck the powder was in your little jar. Now you can buy bars of of rhodium. So again, rhodium's what, $1,035 or $1,100 an ounce. That was as high as $11,000 an ounce at one time. So I would go out and put everything you have in rhodium and platinum and palladium, but I certainly think that if you're looking for something for a little longer term, there's a lot more alternatives than just gold and silver. I mean, gold and silver are your basics, but I just have a feeling that this market is changing. And I know I'm repeating myself, but I think you have to get out of the old mold and stop looking at the same old things. And that goes for coins too. People still buy rare coins or semi-numismatic coins. They have their reasons. The dealers push them, and that's probably 90% of the reason why people buy coins. I think it's because the dealers push them. But they're still selling the same old thing. I mean, some of these dealers, if you go back to the 70s, they were selling St. Gaudens, and now you look today, they're still selling St. Gaudens. So they haven't changed at all in 30 or 35 or 40 years. If your stockbroker was still recommending the same stocks he told you back in 1970, I don't think you'd get very far. But yet coin dealers do it, and people just buy into it and just go with it. So I do see some big changes coming in the coin market. I've talked about these. I've written about these. I am in the middle of writing a new book. I don't know how soon it'll be ready, but call the office, get on my list. And when it's ready, it might be a month, might be 3 months. I don't know. I'll send you a copy. If you want to get on my email list at work, call 480-553-5282 or AmericanFederal.com and sign up. It's a free email. As I get information I think that's worth knowing about that affects your investments or your holdings, I pass that on. A lot of people have made a lot of money because of those emails when I find certain things in the market. And if you get an email you don't like, just erase it and move on. Right after the break, I want to talk a little bit more about the changes in the rare coin market and how you might possibly be able to benefit. There's a lot of people who owned more common rare coins, the coins that I think most of you are probably offered by phone or by your local coin dealer. I mean, honestly, if you're not a really, really serious collector, you're probably never going to be offered the right kinds of coins. Sure, you might buy a Barber half, an MS 65 or 66, and that's fine, but that's not what I'm talking about. But there's a lot of people, who bought common coins. They bought St. Gaudens, they bought Morgan dollars, they bought $2.50 Indians and $20 Liberties. All the stuff that was promoted for the last 20 years, actually 30 years. And so they're sitting on coins that, for the most part, are worth less than what they paid for them, even though they just sat through the best precious metals market in history. Now, some people who bought the $20 gold pieces, because there's so much gold in there, some people are making a little bit of money. I looked at a portfolio this morning. I can't tell you how much the gentleman had. I didn't add it up, how much he put in there, but he was losing on just about everything he had. He had bought this stuff back in 2000, 2001. So gold was $300, $350 an ounce. And he had St. Gaudens that he had paid $760 for. So he's almost doubled his money on that. But the point is, so he made money, but it's because gold went up enough, he couldn't help but making money on a coin that's almost an ounce of gold. But, if he just bought gold bullion, he would have bought it $300 and it's worth $1,200. So he would have made 4 times his money. But with the spreads and everything, if he bought these coins for $760, today they're worth $1,200. So what's he make? 70% by the time he pays commissions in and out, 60-70% net profit. And if you bought most of the other coins, like I said, he didn't just buy those. He bought a portfolio, so he's losing on most of the rest of the coins. So he's not even breaking even. And he bought at the perfect time. He just bought the wrong coins or was sold the wrong coins. And there's a heck of a lot of people out there that are sitting on coins that are not worth what they paid. They've sat through the best market we've ever seen in gold, silver, platinum, and they never made money, and they're sitting on their coins. And a lot of them, they need to decide, do they sit on them and hope it's different next time gold goes up? What's the definition of insane or crazy? Doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for a different result? Well, it didn't work. It's really never worked that sitting on common coins are going to bail you out. They're too common. The coin market's never going to raise the price high enough, and the bullion market, I guess if gold goes to $5,000, it helps you out, but think of the opportunity loss you have. So there's a lot of people that I think either need to just sell their coins and get out and do something different, get the gold. If you want gold still, get some of your gold, stick it aside. Or if you need to make up some money, I think there's some opportunities, but it's a little bit of a gamble. It's always a gamble. The more money you want to make, the more you have to risk. But there are some things in the coin market that make sense to me for a change right now. And it's hard for me to start talking about coins that might be good because I've spent the last 17 years telling people not to buy coins. But when I'm talking about the really spectacular coins, there's a very small percentage of my clients who really should even consider that. But I'm talking. I just bought a coin, or I'm just buying a coin from a client. I'm selling it for him. It's a 1776 continental currency, and it's about the size of $1. It's made out of pewter. The short story on this is back in 1776. The nation was just starting. We really weren't independent yet. We hadn't fought the war yet. But they wanted to have a coin, a U.S. coin, to show our nationality, our solidarity. So this was one of the first coins they came up with. And what we think is that the coins that they made, they're made out of brass. There's the pewter ones, the brass ones, and there's a handful of silver ones. But they made these as examples of the coin, and there was supposed to be a shipment of silver coming from France, and then once the silver got here, they were going to produce this coin as basically, I guess, silver dollar size coin. Well, the silver from France never got here. The French never sent it. So now we have these continental currency coins that are very, very rare. They're very scarce. And to give you an example, the coin that my client has that I'm selling for him, it's a PCGS graded MS62, and I set it to CAC, which is CAC, and they put a sticker on it. So that's about as good as you're going to get in that grade. So that's the highest end you're going to get with the CAC sticker. I went back and, just for fun, this is the kind of coin, by the way, if you're a high-end investor, this is the kind of coin you want. I'm not saying you have to call me and buy this coin. I mean, if you want to, I'll sell it to you. I will have it on my website, AmericanFederal.com. But this is the type of coin, it's historically significant, it's got a good story, it's very scarce, and for the type of coin it is, an MS62 is a pretty nice quality coin, from 1776. So I look at this coin and I think, okay, how did this perform? So I went on the internet, I start looking at auction records. Now I wish I had a little more time because I might be able to track this specific coin and find out what it sold for a few times. When you get into these big dollar coins or these really rare coins, a lot of times they've been in several auctions over the last 30, 40, 50 years. And a lot of times you can actually track the same coin. To me, that's how you would find out how coins really did. You'd follow the same exact coin from 1960 or 70 or whatever year and watch what the auction results were time after time as it went up for auction. And that would tell you what the coins really have done, rather than just going on supposed prices and grades. And what they do now is they just try and make it look good. So I found auction records going back to about 2002 on the coin. Not this specific coin, but another pewter 1776 continental currency. And I found one that went for $34,000 and one that went for $52,000. Now, I don't know why one went for 34 and one went for 52. I didn't see the coins. I don't know. But one exactly the same coin that I have just was auctioned off last month out of the Newman collection. I've talked about that collection quite a few times. I've told you that there's a lot of really great coins coming out. Well, Newman just happened to have the exact same coin that I'm talking about, and it was just sold for $96,000. The difference is it was an NGC graded coin. The one I have is a PCGS graded coin. On this price level coin, PCGS coin is probably worth an extra $10,000, maybe $15,000 on these particular coins. So what I'm saying is you have a coin that went from $34,000 to nearly $100,000 in 12 years. That's not so bad. And that counts commissions because these are prices actually paid at auction. That includes the auctioneer's 22% commission fee. So now one coin doesn't mean I'm right on everything. What I need to do is go back and get more of these really high dollar, super spectacular coins and prove my point. But I think if you go back and look at a lot of the coins, a lot of the coins just in this auction, it's funny because they interviewed one of the gentlemen who auctioned off his lifelong collection. And he was saying, when he started in the 50s, if he spent $10 or $15 on a rare coin, that was really a lot of money. And the last coin he passed on, even billionaires, I guess, have their moments. But this gentleman, this was a different auction, the Gardner collection. He says that he bid probably in every auction in the last 25 years. He bought coins. And at one auction, he had to pass on a dime that he wanted because it went for $1.8 million, and he didn't have enough to buy that plus the other coins he wanted. So, going from paying $10 or $15 for the coins and then all of a sudden $1.8 million for the same kind of coins, that's an extreme, but these are the kind of coins that are bringing the big money. You can see, I mean, if you look at the Gardner collection, the Newman collection, there are so many coins going for hundreds of thousands of dollars that last time they were on the market, I mean, I don't know the prices, but I'd say they're probably under $50,000. And the reason I can say that is a lot of these coins haven't been on the market in decades. And it's not until recently that coins in the $100,000 area weren't something really unusual. I mean, when I was a kid, I don't think there were coins that were over $100,000. So that you're talking about 35, 40 years ago, the most expensive coin was probably $70,000, and then moved up to $300,000 and $400,000, and I wish I could remember the year, but I remember when the first coin sold for over $1 million. Well, when the first coin sold for over $1 million, there were not a lot of coins that were worth $200,000 or $300,000 or $500,000. It was like this coin's $1 million and everything else is $70,000. That's rare. And now, if you look at any of these auctions, there are just dozens of coins that are $100,000 plus. There's a 1901 S Barber Quarter just sold for $278,000. I think the last sale on that was, I don't really know, I'm guessing, but I think it was about $52,000. So what I'm saying is the real money is going into the real coins. And the problem is most of us can't get into these $100 and $500 and $1 million coins. So if you are one of those people, I mean, I do have clients, they have $1 million invested, they're in junky coins. Why not buy some real coins? Put it in something real.
If you're not retired, Nick Grovich.
Okay, I'm back with you. The other area of the market I've talked about a little bit before, it's the modern coins. Specifically, what I like are the gold, silver, and platinum eagles. Here's why I like it. I can look on the CCE, that's Certified Coin Dealer Exchange, and I can look and an 1986 silver dollar. So that's a 1986 1-ounce silver eagle that back in 1986 sold for $5. Today you could buy an average silver eagle for $20 or $21. But if you happen to have one and it was graded MS70, there's people willing to pay $3,000 or $4,000 for it. 1989 $5 gold eagle. That's 1/10 of an ounce of gold. In MS70, there's somebody looking for one right now. They're willing to pay $2,500 for it. There's other dates that go for in the tens of thousands of dollars. There's 1995 Silver Eagle and Proof, the W Proof. In MS70, I think one just sold for $84,000. Now, I'm not telling you to be the person who's paying the $4,000 or $2,500 or $84,000. This is where you have to be really careful with what I say, because what happens is the telemarketers, they're going to call you and say, oh, these coins are so rare, you better buy this 1986. I'm going to sell it to you for $7,000 and it's bid at $4,000, but you couldn't find one for $4,000 if you needed to. The thing is, you don't need to. If you're an investor, you don't need to. The other trap you fall into is every year as coins come out, you have to remember now, these are all older dates. For the most part, they're older dates that are worth the big money. Why is that? Because when these coins were all produced, whether it's gold, silver, or platinum, they're just bullion coins. And what's happened since they were produced is between the dealers and the collectors, there's a secondary market as a collectible coin for many coins. The other thing that's happened, and I'm going to run out of time if I go into too much detail, but PCGS and NGC also have registry sets, so that you can have the finest graded coins and put a set together, and then you get your name on there, and they rate you number 1, number 2. I mean, I have clients who they love being the number 1 or 2 or 3 set, and that's all in a. You get so many points for how good a quality your coins are. So that has created a market for these MS70 coins. So as people start trying to buy them, well, nobody sent coins in to get graded in the 80s and really throughout the 90s. Nobody would think about sending in a silver bullion coin or a gold bullion coin to get it graded. So those coins, they're all sitting in rolls or in somebody's safe deposit box. A lot of them have gone back and forth as they've been bought and sold, so they probably would not grade MS69 or MS70 anymore. So that's why some of the older dates bring the better numbers. But dealers take that. You'll always see ads. They'll say, "Oh, this, if you had a 1986, it goes for $11,000. So you better buy the 2014 or 2015," and they're charging some crazy price. The problem is the newer coins. I can't give you an exact date, but probably from 2008, 2009, right in there. That's when everybody started sending coins in to get graded. So, January's coming around, you're going to start seeing everybody advertising the 2015 coins in MS70. Now, if you can buy, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to probably sell them too. But it's going to be maybe an extra $50 for 1 ounce of gold in MS70. It costs $30 to get it graded. So if you buy it for a little premium like that, or if you buy a Silver Eagle and you want to pay $35 for an MS70, you're not going to get hurt, but honestly, you're really not going to make a lot of money because everybody's grading them. So now, how do you take that and make money on it? The way you do that is if you want to be in gold, silver, and platinum, which I love right now, you buy the bullion coins and you just request the older dates. And it doesn't really matter if they're graded or not. If you can buy them graded already, that's wonderful. If not, you just don't want coins that are all beat up and scratched up and marked up. As long as they're decent looking, it doesn't really matter. You're buying bullion coins. So you can request older dates on just about any of those coins. Sometimes you even get a discount for buying older dates, but usually you're going to pay a couple % more because there's more labor involved. But you can buy these older dates, which have a chance of becoming a rarity at some point down the road, and not pay any more. Here's an example. Here's something that one of my guys bought this week, and it's something I'm going to pass on to a client because there's always risk in the price of gold, but there's really very little risk in this set. The government makes a half-ounce gold coin. It's called the Spouses set. So they started with George Washington. They make a half-ounce gold coin with Martha Washington. They go right down the line. I think they stop with Jimmy Carter, but we haven't gotten there yet. So every year they make a couple new spouses, and they make both an uncirculated and a proof coin. It's a half an ounce. And some of the coins are actually, most of the coins are actually very, very rare. In the thousands of coins. The gold eagles, an average 1 ounce gold eagle, they probably make, I know they make millions of them. The silver eagles, they make 40 million of them a year. So when you're talking about the spouse coins, you're talking about coins they make between maybe 3,000 to 10,000 coins. So it's a pretty rare coin. The thing is, they just haven't caught on. So as of right now, there are people who collect them. There's a registry set of MS70s and proof 70s. There were a couple guys that were really promoting them, and some of the better dates were going for $1,400, $1,500, $1,600. Unfortunately, both the guys who were promoting these, they both passed away this year. So you have a market that nobody's picked up the ball and run with it. So now what happens to the price of these coins? Well, a full set melts for $30,000. That's just the melt value. At $1,200 gold, it melts at $30,000. I figured it out this week. And it's something you can buy if you can find the set. You could probably buy it for $33,000 or $34,000. So if you buy any gold coins, real gold coins, unless you get something really beat up or scrap, you're going to pay anywhere from 4 to 8% over spot. So if you could buy something like this, you're buying it at, let's say, 10% over what the gold melts for. How much risk do you have? You have $3,000 risk and probably less than that on $30,000 worth of gold. And you're buying really, really rare coins. Now, maybe the coins never catch on. Maybe nobody ever likes these spouses coins for whatever reason. And it's just gold. Well, so you paid 10%. You have a 10% risk involved. But it's a lot better than buying that 1986 Silver Eagle for $4,000 that has $20 worth of silver in it. So something like that, it's I don't know if the spouse coins will catch on or not, but you're buying a really rare coin. You're buying it as bullion. and you're not taking a big risk on the premium. Other things like that you could buy are really just about any of the older Eagles, as long as you don't request dates. Just for example, I've been real hot on the Platinum Eagles. I like to buy them when I can buy them for 10 to 15% over spot, whether it's proof coins or uncirculated coins. Well, I just saw a set of an NGC MS70 set being advertised for $75,000 for the set. That's $2,600 an ounce. And that's not crazy, but if you're paying 10 or 20% over spot, that means you could have been buying them the last year one by one and putting them aside for anywhere from, $1,400 to $1,600 a coin. Now somebody has a set. I don't know if they'll get $2,600 an ounce, but that's the price of the full set. So if you had these coins, you could buy them for $1,400, $1,500, $1,600 an ounce and then sell them for $26,000. That's a nice profit considering platinum went down in price. Now, I'm not going to guarantee you're going to always make a profit on these, but it's just a way that if you need to make up some money, if you lost money in the past in coins, it's a way that for very little risk, you can kind of be in the rare coin market, but really just be paying for bullion. And I think it's a really good way to go. I'm running out of time. If you want to know more about it, call the office, 480-553-5282, and ask me about it.